welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is a new deep dive that I am working on. It is the truth behind making a murderer, which involves Wisconsin, excuse me, Wisconsin versus Steven Avery, and Wisconsin versus Brendan Dassey. So these are two cases that we're going to be looking at, which are interconnected. They're linked together, but they had two separate trials, two separate everythings. But as you probably know from the Netflix hit Making a Murderer, it is a show about someone who is potentially wrongfully convicted for a crime they didn't commit. But the truth is, he actually was convicted of a crime he didn't commit back in the 1980s. And we're going to talk about that now before we get into all the stuff that, all of the little intricate things that happened during the Making a Murderer Netflix show or documentary. Before we get to that, we need to backtrack and go back to 1985, which is the Beernsten case. So I feel like I need to shrink this slightly for you guys. I don't know where the bottom of the screen is. It's a little better. Okay. So, in fact, let's do this. Full screen. Here we go. All right, so this is a kind of like a PowerPoint presentation that I put together. And we're going to go through this, and then we're going to start going through some court documents, the case file of what happened, and kind of pick it apart. So before we get into it, I really want to thank you for watching, and I really appreciate your support. If you could please like this video, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the deep dives. This is going to be a series of many episodes, especially because it's two cases, so it's going to be a longer one than I've done in the past. And we're going to do it in depth and look at everything. So that's what I'm here for. All right, so please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe, comment, let me know what you think as well. So moving on, you know what? I do want to make this like a full screen. Hold on now. Is that better? No, that's too big. Ah, there we go. Let me take me off. We could do just a voiceover for right now. All right, so I'll come back on a little later. So this is episode 1, Avery's first wrongful conviction. As you might be aware from some of the different things that I've posted on my channel, I really am passionate about wrongful convictions. I'm passionate about getting it right within the system the first time, instead of having additional victims within our justice system. So, with that being said, Avery was a victim of wrongful conviction back in the 90s or 80s, sorry, and we're going to talk about that. So who are the Averys? Well, the Averys own a family tree, no, they don't own a family tree. The Averys, we're going to go over the family tree. This is an outline of what we're doing. So we're going to go over the family tree a little bit, talk about who the different Averys are, and within that family. We're going to talk about Steven Avery's early years. Then we're going to go into depth about Penny Beernsten's assault, and then an overview of law enforcement's negligence and bias, and Avery's first wrongful conviction, as I said, and then we'll talk about how he got to that point, and then we'll do a doc reading. So we're going to look at the 1985 case file and actually read some of the police report. So that is what we're going to talk about today. I have a lot planned, so let's get to it. All right, so this is the family tree. Um, let's begin with Dolores and Alan Avery. These are the parents of, as you can see, Steven Avery, who I put in the center of our family tree. So Steven has a sister, Dolores, a Chuck. He has a brother named Chuck, and he has a brother named Earl. So Dolores and Alan had these 4 children, and now we're going to get to it. So let's look at uh, let's look at Dolores. Oh, wait, this is not Dolores. What is her name? Is her name Dolores? Did I get that wrong? Hold on. Is that a typo that on my part? I feel like it might be, but I wouldn't be surprised if they called her Dolores too. So, Steven Avery's sister. Barb Tadich. Sorry. Yeah, I knew that wasn't right. Okay. Sorry. Her name is Barb Tadich. She's married to Scott Tadich. Dumb. Sorry about that. So this is Barb. And she's now married to this guy, Scott. So anybody in the red, with the red line, they're in a current relationship. Anyone with a dotted line is a former relationship. And anyone with this like corally, whatever color, orangey color, that's family. Just to break it down for you easily. So this is Barb. Sorry about that. I will fix that and I will get it out to you guys in a better way. All right, so Barb Tadich and Scott Tadich are married. She used to be with, I don't know if they were married, but Barb used to be with Peter Dassey, which is how we got, well, hold on. Let's go this way first. So Barb, this is so confusing because we got so many people here. Okay, so Barb, go down to Peter. They are in a former relationship and they had multiple children. They had these 4 boys. So they had Brendan Dassey, Blaine Dassey, Brian, and Bobby Dassey. Oh, and that's a typo too. Gosh darn it. I swear I looked at this. So these 4 boys are the sons of Barb and Peter. Peter also has a boy named Brad, which is a half brother to these boys here. Okay, so there's that. Let's go to Stephen's brothers. So Stephen also has a niece from Chuck and 2 nieces from Earl, but they are not really all that relevant to our case because I don't think they witnessed anything. They have nothing to do with it. So they're not part of it. But anyways, so back to Steven now. Let's get to Steven. He used to be married to Lori Avery right here. And she came into the marriage having a son already, Jason, who Steven gladly raised as his own. Steven and Lori were happy. They married young. We'll get to that, but they were pretty happy early on. Steven was very much in love with her. They had 4 boys, 2 daughters and 2 sons. They had, 2 daughters and 2 sons, not 4 boys. That's these guys. So, adding to the mix, they had Jason plus Rachel, Jennifer, Steven Jr., and Bill. So it was a large family of 5. Or 5 kids, I should say. A family of 7. So they ended up splitting because of the story that I'm going to go into and telling you. And so he's also been associated with these two women who he's dated while in prison and when he got out of prison. So we'll get to there. But anyways, so this is, you probably recognize a lot of these faces if you watched the documentary. But so now you know Lori leaves Steven and marries Peter Dassey, the ex-husband or ex of Steven's sister. So as you can see, that's a little weird. And I'm not sure if Brendan is from that family or not, from that union, I should say, or not, or if he came from another relationship. I do not know, and I cannot confirm that. Maybe people already know and can let us know. But so this is our, so Sandy and Jody were his ex-fiancés. So they will come into play later in our discussion, perhaps. But our main characters that we're going to talk about are Steven Avery and Brendan Dassey, who is his nephew. All right, I hope that helped. I really put a lot of work in putting that together so that you guys could see visually who everyone was, because I think it helps me. All right, so Steven Avery, he lived and worked on the family's auto salvage yard, which is Avery's auto salvage yard, located in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, on a 40-acre property. And it is huge. You can probably see behind the picture here, the background of this is his auto yard, and it's huge. It doesn't even show all of it. Anyway, so reportedly he has an IQ of 70, and this is put out there in Netflix, the Netflix series, that he reportedly only has an IQ of 70, and he dropped out of high school. He met Lori, who I showed you in here. He met Lori in, I don't know if he met her in high school, but he met her in 1982. He was 19 years old, so no, probably not in high school. He was a dropout by then. All right, so he was the father of 4 children, 2 girls and twin boys. So Steven Avery and Bill Avery are twins. He did have a minor criminal history. I know people are going to get horrific in the comments about this. Please, 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 please do not get all angry. There's nothing to worry about. This is a safe space. Let's talk about things calmly, rationally, cordially, civilly, and we don't have to get angry with one another, because what I'm going to say is triggering. So he had some charges for burglary in a bar with another person. So he served 10 months for that, and there is a charge of animal cruelty, and he served 9 months for that. That I'm not going to get into in detail, but he served his time. He admits that he did something stupid and he regrets doing it. So let's just kind of forgive and forget. I mean, it happened. He did his time. I'm sure he regrets it. So those are 2 minor incidents that happened. This is another thing that was going on at the same time in the 1980s. So he had an ongoing feud going on with his cousin, Sandra Morris, who happens to be married to the sheriff's deputy of the town in Manitowoc County. So there was an instance where he was charged. He fully embraced the act that he did. He told law enforcement, yes, this is what I did. He tried to run her off a road and he pointed a gun at her. And the reason that he says that he did this is because she was going around spreading rumors about him, going around and exposing himself and having relations with people out in the open and doing some perverted things that, if you weren't responsible for, you wouldn't want those rumors spread about you. You know what I'm saying? Like you really wouldn't. So Avery denies any allegations of exposing himself, but he admitted to the car incident, to pulling or to trying to run Sandra Morris off the road because he wanted to confront her. He wanted these accusations to stop. And again, we have to remember he doesn't have the highest IQ. He has limited personable and vocabulary skills. He's not the sharpest tack. So he might be an easy target. He might also not know how to handle himself in stressful situations like this. So he denies every allegation against him except for the car incident. And for this road rage incident with Sandra Morris, he received 6 years, but he was actually out on bail, so he didn't serve time. So that was good, at least. So now we get to the wrongful conviction. So those other things I explain. I'm not going to get into the animal cruelty because I absolutely hate that, but I'm not condoning it. It is what it is. Let's move on and talk about the situation at hand. So, wrongful convictions, I should say. Wrongful conviction number 1, in 1985, the Penny Beernsten assault. So, he served 18 years of his 32-year sentence. He was served he was given a 32-year sentence, and he served 18 of those years. And ever since the beginning, he has always maintained his innocence. We also know from the Making a Murderer Netflix series, everybody probably knows the name of Teresa Halbach. That happened in 2005. So that she had been a missing person, and the town had been looking for her, and we'll get to that also eventually, but we do find that she had been unalived, and someone took her life. So for that, he was arrested. He has served, at this point, he served already 19 plus years for an unaliving that he most likely didn't have anything to do with, and we'll get to that too. So I know there's so many people out there that are guilters, and that's fine. You can watch, you can disagree, but let's all just be civil. That's all I ask, please. All right, so currently he is serving a life sentence, and when he was arrested, at the time of his arrest, Steven had a $36 million civil suit that was pending against Manitowoc County and the sheriff and all the people that wrongfully convicted him in the first place. The same people that turned around and tried to arrest him, try to pin an unaliving on him, in my opinion. All right. So Brendan Dassey is another character in our story. So he is Steven's nephew. He also, I must have skipped that part. So Steven lived on the auto salvage yard property. They had multiple trailers where people were living, and Steven had his own trailer, and I believe Barb and Scott Tadich had a trailer or a house, I'm not sure, with their children that they were raising, including Brendan. So Brendan lived on the property of auto salvage yard as well. He comes into our story much later, at the point when he's 16 years old. Where we are right now in our timeline, it's 1985, so he has not even been born yet, but I just wanted to bring him up because he is also a key figure in our story. He is a super fan of the WWE and WrestleMania. He is an animal lover. He enjoyed video games very much. He was known to be quiet and introverted. He wasn't born until 1889, so like I said, he doesn't come into our story until much later, so we will come back to Brendan later. Okay, so Penny Beernsten. She was 6 years old in 1985. So at the time of our timeline that we're taking us back to 1985. She's 36 years old. She's a mother of 2, I believe. I can't totally confirm that. I believe she has 2 children, but she might have more. I saw a picture of her and her husband and 2 kids, but there could be more. I don't know. But that's what I'm going to go with. I couldn't confirm, but I'm just letting you know. Whoops. All right. So she is a mother. We know a mother, but we don't know how many. All right. For sure. She is married to Thomas Beernsten. They are both prominent leaders in the community, and they are prominent business owners of multiple businesses throughout Manitowoc County. They are success, they are money, they are the wealth. They are the exact opposite of the Averys. Just saying. All right, so she is an avid jogger. She loves jogging. She was, where we're going to go to our point in the timeline, she was brutally A'd and R'd, I don't want to say those words, on a beach right around 3 p.m. on that afternoon of July 29, 1985. She was severely beaten and left for her injuries to take her. She was reported missing by her husband because he was expecting her to come back after her jog and she didn't. So he did report her missing, and but before the cops were able to even find her, she was found by a couple on the beach, and they gave her a towel and, I'm sure they stayed with her until help arrived. So it's an awful, awful thing to have happened to her. Horrible thing to have survived. Horrible thing to have lived through. And here we are. So Judy Dvorak is going to investigate what happened. So immediately after police arrive, EMT arrive, they take her to a hospital to tend to her injuries. Judy Dvorak, who is the part-time sheriff's deputy, came to the hospital and she took the victim's statement. Now, I'm stressing that she's a part-time sheriff because it's interesting how, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. She's a part-time sheriff and she took the victim's statement. She was asked to go here. So the chief or, sheriff, whoever said, you go down to the hospital because you're female, you go and talk to her, get a description and all that. So Judy Dvorak goes to the hospital. She says that she thought she was there just to provide comfort, and she remained with the victim for hours. So that was what she thought, like her main purpose there was to just provide her comfort, when really she was there to get a witness statement, which we'll get to. All right, so she is close personal friends with Avery's longtime feuding cousin, Sandra Morris. That just happens to be a huge, glaring conflict of interest there. So anyways, she also is a neighbor of Steven Avery, of the Averys. She lives near their property. She already did not like Steven. In reports, she calls him dirty, abusive, vindictive, and capable of the crime. Those are her words. So she comes in with a huge bias towards Steven, coming into this crime, this horrible act of violence towards another human being. And Judy Dvorak is the one that said, you know, when she starts to hear Penny's description of the assailant, she's the one that says, oh, well, that sounds like Steven. So she went in there with a bias and potentially wanted, I mean, she could have honestly thought that it was Steven because her bias was so strong against him. Allegedly, she had the victim sign a statement even though the victim's eyesight was impaired, and she stated that she couldn't see it. And this is brought up in a deposition. This is something that I believe the victim says in a statement, in a follow-up statement later on, that she couldn't see what her statement was that she signed. So she can't really validate that her statement was actually her words or her account of the events, because Judy Dvorak wrote it. And we'll get to that. So, all right. The investigation. So this is all kind of a heads up of what we're going to talk about too. I mean, maybe not all of it in great detail, but we need this background information first to get going. So this right here is Chief Deputy Eugene Couchet. That's how you say it, Couchet. This is Eugene Couchet, the Chief Deputy, Manitowoc County. He decided to create this sketch of the assailant of Penny Beernsten based on what Judy Dvorak had described. And it just so happens to look very much like past mugshot of Steven. So this happens to be the mugshot that he framed in like one big frame altogether, the sketch that he drew. So let's dive into that. He had access to Steven's earlier mugshot and allegedly created the sketch based on this image, although he says he didn't have. He even lied in his deposition and said he didn't have access to Steven's mugshot, yet that was proven to be, he corrected himself based on the questioning from the attorney. He was like, well, yeah, okay, I did have it, but I didn't know I had it. And then this, he claimed, was his first composite sketch used in a case. So it's the first time he's ever sketched someone out, which is interesting. Why now? Why start now? You're not a sketch artist. It definitely doesn't look like a sketch artist sketch. So he, like I said, he framed this sketch along with Steven's earlier mugshot and hung it in his office like a prize. So explain to me why you would do something like that unless you had motive and bias and intention to go after that person. It seems wrong to me. He was shown to a picture of Steven was actually shown to the victim prior to any photo lineups. So that's another huge problem within the investigation. Steven was shown to the victim even before any lineups were taking place. All right, and now he also, so this Eugene Couchet, I had to keep reminding myself how to say his name. It's Couchet. He doubles down on his theory that Steven was the assailant even after Steven gets fully exonerated, indicating that this guy has a huge bias against Steven and a huge need to be right. He doesn't want to let go of his original assumption or his original, theory of the case. Continuing on with the investigation, there were problems with Penny's statement as well. So, there was no recorded, this is Steven, by the way, in a photo lineup. So, no recorded audio or video was ever taken of the statements between Penny and Judy Dvorak, the conversation, nothing. So, we don't know what was said, We don't know if any ideas were planted into Penny's head. And, which is very easy to do, especially in a time when you're traumatized and your memory of the situation isn't quite as exact as you would like it. And people could plant certain things, certain memories that you didn't even have. It's very, very scary that can happen. All right, so we only have a written account of a biased Judy Dvorak of Penny's statement. So we already know she's biased. She said several things about Steven in her report that are just blatantly, opinion. And yeah, we just can tell. She said it's, that sounds like Steven when she heard the description. All right, so more problems with Penny's statement. They asked the victim, so Judy and potentially the sheriff asked the victim to sign a statement regardless of the ability to see or read, or read the statement at the time, sorry. So, like I said, victim couldn't see it, and they made her sign it anyways, allegedly. We also have no other witnesses that were in that room with Penny and Judy, at least none that were accounted for. Penny did say that there was one other person in the room, another officer, but she couldn't remember who, and she couldn't give us any details, so yeah, whatever. And because memory from traumatic events can be very unreliable, it is easy to plant false memories in someone's psyche. There was also problems with the photographic lineup. So a sketch was already done in Steven's likeness. That meaning, it was done already in a biased way to look like Steven. It was based on Steven's former mugshot, sorry. The victim was actually shown this sketch prior to the photo lineups, and Steven was the only one in both lineups. So there were two lineups. There was a photographic lineup and a video of a live, like a pre-recorded lineup. And he was the only one that was in both of them. So she already would have had a memory of seeing him for the first time. So her face or her mind would be like, well, yeah, he looks familiar, so it must be this guy, which is how you plant a false memory. Steven Avery, the Beernsten case, 1985. Steven is charged and convicted of R and attempted M that against Penny because it was so brutal and she was left for her injuries to take her life, and it was very bad. She was in the hospital for a long time recovering from her injuries. So but he did have a solid alibi with store receipts, different stores that he visited. He had receipts to those with timestamps, and he also had 16 eyewitnesses that accounted for his time that day. All of his appeals in this case were denied, and he served his 18 years out of 32. In 1995, a Brown County inmate admitted to the crime, okay, but he's still sitting in prison in 1995, but a Brown County, so a county over, or wherever it is, some guy sitting in another county jail, and he admitted to the crime of Penny Beernsten. An officer from that county prison called the Manitowoc County to inform them of what had happened, to inform them that this person had actually confessed to it. I couldn't think of the word confess. So anyways, Sheriff Kosaric told the Brown detective, oh, we already have the right guy. Don't concern yourself with it. And this was heard by multiple police officers who were around when this phone call came in. So the sheriff tells this county officer or detective, we already have our guy. Don't worry about it. All right, then. But in 2002, Wisconsin Innocence Project, who had taken up his case, tested the DNA in the Penny Beernsten case. And the test results led to an actual assailant, which was Gregory Allen. So as you can see, Avery, Allen, I mean, not very similar, other than, you know, they have facial hair and longer hair. But, whoa. Sorry, my dogs got crazy there because mailman came and they hate the mailman. I apologize. Can't do anything about that. Mailman, oh, he slams down the mailbox lid too, which makes so much noise. It makes them all go crazy, but sorry about that. All right, so Gregory Allen is the actual assailant of Penny Beernsten. We learn in 1995, but we don't find out until the DNA is processed in 2002. And so he has kind of a similar resemblance, I guess, to Avery. I do think their eye color was different. I mean, I would say that Avery's got way shaggier hair. This guy's got like a longer hair and a 70s stash, you know? So, I don't know. So, anyways, you could say potentially that there's similar resemblance because they both have long hair. Committed a similar. He had Gregory Allen has committed similar assaults on the same beach in 1983, so 2 years earlier from the Beernsten case. He was never a suspect in the Beernsten case, which, you know, if he did the same things on the same beach, you would think the police would find that person and, you know, figure they were a suspect. I don't know. Also, his image was never included in the photo lineups, and conversations regarding the Brown County detective and confession from Allen were buried and hidden by Manitowoc County for years, from 95 till 2002. So we get to Making a Murderer. All right, so 1985, we have the Beernsten case. Manitowoc County informed of confession in 1995. DNA testing exonerates Avery in 2002, and then he's finally released from prison because it's a process to get released from prison. They don't just let you out. Like, there's a process. You have to get processed out. So he's released from prison in September of 2003, especially if there's like other filings and stuff that you're waiting on in the courts. It's frustrating that you might have to wait some weeks or months before you can be released. So next, as I referred to earlier, Steven Avery files a civil suit against Manitowoc County in 2004 once he's out of prison. However, unfortunately, this is a $36 million suit, by the way, guys. A $36 million suit. And he was forced to settle for only $400,000, which you might say like, well, that's still a lot of money. It's actually not a lot of money for 18 years of your life taken away from you. And he had to ask for the charges to be dismissed in 2006 following his arrest of the Teresa Hallback unaliving. So in 2005, Allen is arrested, November, for Teresa's disappearance and taking her life. And the Manitowoc Sheriff's deputies participated in repeated searches. So many searches of Avery's house. They did like an 8-day search originally where they kicked Avery out off the property and basically took it over for 8 days to search the property. But they still didn't find anything to tie. Well, I think that he, anyways, you don't care what I think. All right, so he spent over 42 years in prison for crimes he didn't commit at this point. If he, from going to prison for the Hallbeck unaliving and up in, that's 18 plus his 19 years that he served so far. That's 42 years in prison. He's 61 years old, okay? So only 19 years of his life has ever been lived outside of prison walls. So let that sink in. He has been railroaded by the police since he was 19 years old. And just to further drive that home, look at the pictures of the progress of the changes of his face. That he looks like an old man to me now. Like he's aged significantly when he's in prison. This is a 2022 Wisconsin Department of Corrections mugshot. And that's the most recent that we have. I mean, he looks so much older now than he even did back in, I mean, I know it's 20 years, but still, I mean, age, going through the stress of these trials, going through the stress of not seeing your family. It's all difficult. It takes a toll on your life, and you see it in his eyes. You see it in his eyes after he's convicted of the first crime. Look at him here. He just looks like an innocent young kid because that's what he was. And now here he's happy because he got released from prison. And then he's back in prison. So not so happy. Oh, this is just the end screen of my presentation. If you have any real true crime encounters that you would like to share with others on my channel, in your own words, write to me at crimeandcourtchannel@gmail.com. If you have any stories of, or if you yourself have been wrongfully convicted or accused, or if you have other suggestions for other true crime cases for us to cover on this channel, especially things that deal with cover-up, corruption, wrongfully convicted topics, please email crimeandcourtchannel@gmail.com. And that's the end of my presentation, but it's not the end of this video. We're going to go into some of the case file here, which, let me put my webcam back on, and let's go to hold on. There's my screen grab that I'm trying to turn off. There we go. Okay. Sorry. Different screenshots that I have saved on there that I can find the right one. So this is a police report that was filed July 29th, 1985. That's hard to read. At 1500, or however you say that. That would be what? 9 o'clock? No. I don't remember. My brain's not working right now after going through all of that. All right, so this is I guess Neshota Beach House is the location. Tom Beernsten is the person requesting service, and he reports that his wife left to jog to Port Beach and hasn't returned yet. Found up the beach by 2 subjects. She had been assaulted. And I can't read the rest of that. So that is what their police reports looked like in 1989. What does it say? Found a subject that had been assaulted on the beach. She is being taken to Memorial Hospital. All right. More of this. So this is interesting. They have down here suspects, different suspects that they've added to this case, and somehow Steven Avery's name gets on here, and I have a feeling it's because of Judy Dvorak. So I might want to put up my trigger warning just because this is going to be graphic details. We're not going to see pictures, but actually I know there is a picture of Peggy's face after this and she's all bruised up, but I don't have that with my stuff, so we're not going to look at that. So no pictures, just descriptions. So I apologize for the warning. The trigger warning now is up. All right, so 19 hours, Officer Beck, at the request of Lieutenant Bilkey at headquarters, responded to Memorial Hospital at Manitowoc, reference an assault victim. Upon my arrival at Memorial Hospital, I was met by Thomas Beernsten, who stated that his wife, while jogging north of Neshota Beach, Neshota Park on the beach, was assaulted at approximately, redacted, today's date. Penny Beernsten, who was the assault victim, sustained bruises and cuts to both eyes and bruises about the face and a long bruise mark around her neck where it appeared somebody tried to choke her. According to Penny Beernsten, she was attacked by a creek approximately 2 to 3 miles north of Neshota Park. I don't know how to say that, so that's how I'm saying it. Near the Point Beach campground area by an unknown male subject wearing a black leather jacket, long pants, approximately 5'6" or 5'7", covering his face and clothes, 5'7" in height, in medium to stocky build, sandy, frizzy, collar-length hair, a full beard covering his face, and close cropped. So at this point, Gregory Allen had a full beard, not just the mustache, but it was closely cropped to his face, according to the statement, or according to whoever put those words on the paper. Let's say that. Mrs. Penny Beernsten also stated that when she was attacked, the subject screamed at her, "Kill, kill, kill." A R-kit examination was conducted by the emergency medical nurses at the hospital in the presence of Judy Dvorak. The towels and blankets that the subject was brought in on were sealed in plastic bags. So, like I said, they put towels, blankets, the people on the beach that found her, wrapped her up in their towels. So due to the extent of injuries of the subject and the grogginess of her memory, Judy Dvorak will be standing by taking notes of the event as the subject remembers them. I don't think that's how you do it. I think you're supposed to ask them when they're better or when they're in a better place. All right, so Officer Frauenfeld arrived at the end of 22nd Street in Two Rivers at the beach area of Lake Michigan and met a Two Rivers officer who directed him to the subject's basement and Holtman. After attempting to get some additional information from both the subjects, the officer asked them if they would take them to the area where they found the victim. The subjects then led the officer down the beach approximately half a mile to the area of what is commonly called First Creek. According to the subjects, they had been walking northbound on the beach area and were approximately 500 to 550 feet south at First Creek when Holtman, who was walking on the dunes rather than in the beach area, observed the victim and thought she was suntanning in the nude. Both the subject both the subjects then walked approximately 30 more feet, at which time they sat down by a tree that was growing near the waterline. Shortly thereafter, the victim rolled onto the beach from the dunes area and asked for help. The subjects stated that the victim appeared very upset and seemed to have been injured, and then helped her back to the 22nd Street area. There they were met by the two area's police officer and the victim's husband, who had become concerned over the victims being overdue from a jogging excursion. Holtman pointed out the area where the victim had rolled onto the beach to the officer, and the officer then followed the track that looked like the victim had dragged herself through the sand to the beach backwards towards the wooded area west of the beach. This area of woods was approximately 300 to 350 feet from the water. At this point, the officer turned canine Barron, I think it says, loose, and conducted an area search, at which time Barron immediately indicated on a blue and white piece of cloth lying off the trail just inside of the wooded area. This cloth was a bottom of the bikini type swimsuit and was identified as the property of the victim. Further area searches in all four directions from that scene were conducted with negative results. Barron, however, did linger in one area between several sand dunes, and when the officer checked it, observed that an apparent scuffle had taken place in or around that area. The officer was unable to ascertain any clear footsteps at the time, other than the fact that some impressions in the sand were larger than the others. It also appeared that someone may have been thrown to the ground in that location. The area would have been approximately 100 to 150 feet northwest of the location where the officer found the swimming suit pants. After the searches, the officer, along with the two subjects, walked further along the beach for approximately 3/4 of a mile, where they were able to observe footprints believed to have been made by the victim, which were traveling in both directions that seemed to be a normal pace, so like jogging. This would indicate that the subject had still been jogging while southbound and had not had any trouble in that direction until after she reached the First Creek area. After completing the investigation in the First Creek area, Officer Frauenfeld left that scene and proceeded north and met with a DNR agent to check the Molash Creek area. Molash Creek would be running into Lake Michigan just over 1 mile north of First Creek. According to information that the officer had received, the victim recalled seeing tents and a sailboat in the area prior to her assault, and the DNR agent indicated that would be near the Molash Creek area. At the Molash Creek, Officer Frauenfeld made contact with the second two subjects listed as others, who would have been the only two at the campsite area at the time of the incident. According to Miss Sang, who had observed the victim jogging northbound at their location at approximately 15:30 hours this date, and that she observed that same victim proceed north for several yards, then turn around and jog back south again. She stated that the victim then stopped and splashed around in the water to cool off at the entrance of Molash Creek. Well, that's not what she was doing, but she was in the water because she was trying to get away from the guy, remember? She stated that after that time she lost contact with the victim and had not seen her again. Miss Sang did state that approximately 1600 to 1630 hours she proceeded southbound on the beach in an attempt to locate her boyfriend, who was operating a sailboat in the area near the shoreline, and that at the time she no longer saw the victim or noticed any unusual activity. Officer Frauenfeld then checked the Molash Creek area but found no indications of anything relating to this incident there. Officer Frauenfeld then cleared the scene and returned to headquarters, where he turned over the swimming suit bottoms to Officer Dvorak for placement into evidence. I received a call from headquarters at approximately 7 p.m. advising that Officer Beck was at Memorial Hospital with an assault victim and that headquarters was having difficulty locating a detective. I responded to Memorial Hospital emergency room and met Tom Beernsten and Officer Beck. I was advised by Officer Beck that Deputy Dvorak was with the assault victim, Penny Beernsten, and was obtaining the statement at this time. After a short period of time, Deputy Dvorak came out of the emergency room with a statement which basically stated the following. All right, let me take a hydration break. So on the 29th, at approximately 15:50 hours, sorry, so that's like 3:30, right? I think 3:30. Penny Beernsten began jogging alone north or northeast from Neshota Beach, along the beach toward Point Beach State Park. There's a lot of beaches in there. Penny indicated that she crossed a second creek along the beach and ran a short distance in a northeasterly direction to some pup tents, where she turned around and began jogging back to the public beach area. She again crossed the second creek, this time going in a southwesterly direction, at which time she saw someone standing in the shadow of a poplar tree. The subject was described as wearing a dark brown or black leather jacket, 5'6" to 5'7" tall, having a slightly stocky build, light sandy curly hair, and a full, closely cut beard. The leather jacket appeared to have snaps on it rather than a zipper, and his hair and beard appeared to be somewhat sandy brown in color and scraggly as she describes it. Her statement indicates that the subject was wearing long trousers and shoes, however, she was not positive on the type or color. The suspect supposedly ran out of the wooded area toward the victim. Penny stated that she attempted to run into the water to elude the subject, however, he managed to grab her from behind and started pulling her toward the sand dunes. As the subject grabbed Penny around the chest, he told her to take off her bikini top and she struggled and said no. Penny indicated that the subject managed to get off her bikini top and ultimately pulled off her bikini bottoms and started unbuckling his trousers. Penny indicates that she continued to struggle and at one point kicked the subject in the groin area. At this point, the subject put his hands around her neck and said, "I'm going to kill you." Whoa, okay, I can't, that's intense. Alright, so he also struck the victim in the face about the eyes several times, causing bleeding, bruising, and swelling. Penny indicated that after she kicked him, he also stated, "You screwed everything up. You're going to die." Penny indicated that she continued to struggle as he attempted to choke her, and after a few minutes, she broke free and he ran off out into the wooded area again. After obtaining the statement from Penny Beernsten, color photos were taken of the injuries. She was then admitted to a room where Chief Deputy Jean Couchet was contacted to develop a composite drawing of the suspect. Again, why was he contacted? He had never done a composite before. This was his first. Why would you call someone who's never done a police artist sketch before? Wouldn't you call your regular police sketch guy? I mean, I would think. The composite drawing was fully completed at approximately 10:20 p.m., and the victim was then shown a photographic lineup of 9 different suspects. The photographic lineup consisted of the following 9 sheriff department photo numbers as follows. I'm not going to read all those. After viewing the 9 photographs, the victim picked out photograph number 3746, indicating that this was the subject that assaulted her. The photograph of the suspect matched that of the composite drawing, and the suspect is identified as Steven Avery. There's all of some info. Okay, so let's just break that down for a second. Because this is somebody else's written statement of the actual event or the actual statement, we don't know in what context she chose the Allen photo. perhaps they were like, well, perhaps she was looking at all of them and she's like, well, none of them look familiar to me because Gregory Allen wasn't in it. So she wouldn't have seen the guy that actually did it. So what if law enforcement's sitting there pressuring her and going, come on, can't just any of them? Do any of them look familiar at all to you? Just, take another look. Just look at their features and tell me what you think. That's the kind of stuff that they do to try to, like, imply that, you probably do know who it is and you're just not remembering. So just keep trying. And, sorry, my lips are so dry. So that was, that could have been the context of how the conversation went. And then she was like, well, this guy kind of looks familiar because you already showed me a sketch of him and, the composite sketch and whatnot. So yeah, it looks just like him. They showed her the composite sketch first. Anyways. Alright, so the night shift commander, Ken Peterson, was advised that the subject should be taken into custody, and suspect Steven Avery was ultimately taken into custody from his home at approximately midnight the same day. What investigative work did you do the same day you're already arresting someone? That's not how investigations usually work, unless you, like, catch the person in the act. The clothing that he was wearing at the time was confiscated to evidence. Did I skip something? I don't know. Yeah, so he was transported to Manitowoc County Jail. The clothing that he was wearing was taken, confiscated as evidence, although he was wearing short cut-off jeans, which does not match what the victim indicated the suspect would have been wearing at the time of the assault. So he was not wearing trousers and short shoes like she described. Also taken as physical evidence were pubic hair samples, combings, and nail scrapings. All of this evidence was either taken or turned over to Sergeant Ken Peterson. Subject was then given his Miranda warning for the second time. So why was he given it? When was he given it the first time? I guess when they first arrested him at his house. This time the sheriff, Tom Kosterick, at 12:54 a.m., and he signed the Miranda warning waiver, indicating that he was willing to speak to me regarding this investigation. He was informed that he was currently being charged with attempted unaliving and questioned regarding the incident. Steven Avery denied any involvement in the incident, admitting to nothing. Stephen, well, because he didn't do it. Stephen was allowed to go back to his cell. However, he was informed that there would be no bail allowed for him tonight and that he would not be allowed to make a phone call, since his wife was already aware that he was being held in the Manitowoc County Jail on charges. Also, he was not allowed a phone call since he was using his family as an alibi for his whereabouts. Okay. And I wish to question them on July 30th without affording Stephen the opportunity of establishing a phony alibi. Okay. But you denied him his right to counsel, too. I also will attempt to obtain a search warrant in the morning hours of 7:30:85 for the clothing that was reportedly worn by the suspect at the time of the assault. Any telephone conversation the subject may have with the outside prior to that time may jeopardize obtaining the evidence needed in the search warrant. That is signed Sheriff Kosterick. All right, 23:15 hours. Sergeant Peterson, officers Bushman, Froelich gathered at Officer Avery's home. There's an Officer Avery too? What? A decision was made that we were going to the Steven Avery residence to pick him up and bring him to the sheriff's department. It was decided that Officer Avery and myself would enter the back part of the home and Sergeant Peterson would stay at the front of the home. Is this Avery person related? Because if they are, wouldn't that be a conflict of interest also? To have someone with your very same last name on your property searching? Like, what if they have a grudge against you? Like a cousin or uncle or something. I don't know. Anyways, so it was decided that Officer Avery and myself would enter the back part of the home and Sergeant Peterson would stay in the front. Officer Bushman and Duke, who the heck is Duke? Is that a dog? Yeah, would stay on the perimeter of the home in case of an attempted escape. So they brought a canine, I think, is what Duke is. On arrival at the Steven Avery residence, an old Y, Officers Froelich and Avery went to the back door and knocked on the door inside the back entry. No one came to the door. Officer Avery pushed the door open, which was unlocked, and called to Steven Avery, to his wife, Susan. He called out her name 3 times, and the officers would hear an answer from the upstairs. It was asked, "Where are you?" which she said, "Upstairs." Officer Avery said, "This is Arland." So, Arland is Arland is an uncle, I think. Let's look at that. Pretty sure Arland Avery. He's Dassey's great uncle. I don't know, but he is related. So that is true. He is an uncle or something. Arland, how is he related? I know he was in the documentary. I remember that name and his face now that I am seeing it. So yeah, he was I think it's an uncle of Steven Avery. So where are we? Officer Avery pushed the door open, which was unlocked. He called out the names. It was asked, "Where are you?" Upstairs. Officer Avery said, "This is Arland. Where's Steve? I'd like to talk to him." Officer Froelich and Avery then entered the home in the kitchen area. Steve had called to Arland, and Arland went to the stairway and talked to him in the stairway. Officer Froelich ducked in a small dark closet room next to the stairway. Steven Avery came down the stairs and followed Arland into the kitchen area. Officer Froelich exited the small closet area and followed behind. Sergeant Peterson came into the back door in the kitchen. At this point, Steven wanted to know what was going on. Yeah. Sergeant Peterson told Steven, "You're under arrest for suspicion of attempted unaliving." Sergeant Peterson asked Steve if he would turn around. Steve turned around and the handcuffs were placed on Steve. Steve then turned again and faced both officers. Sergeant Peterson told Officer Froelich to read him his rights. The time was indicated as 11:48 p.m. as Officer Froelich read Steven Avery his rights from the Miranda card. Steve stated that he understood his rights and did not want to make a statement at this time. Steven's wife came into the kitchen and asked, "Would someone please tell me what's going on?" Steven then looked at his wife and said, "They said I ended the life of a girl." No questions were asked of Steven at this time. Steven asked the officers if he would get dressed, and Sergeant Peterson told him he could put on a pair of shoes, and his wife also gave him a brown t-shirt which he carried along. Steve was escorted to the unmarked squad and placed in the back seat of the squad car, and the seatbelt was put on. Sergeant Peterson transported him to the sheriff's department, and he was followed by Officer Bushman and Duke. A description of the sheriff's department... The description of house in question would be located. What? 0.4 of a mile east of Melnick Road on Old Y in the town of Gibson, north side of the road. Description of the house would be a 2-story wood frame structure. The house is yellow in color. Entries to the home would be a front porch on the south side of the home where the porch has been removed, and a porch entry on the east side of the home towards the back. interior of the home would consist of a basement and a first and second floor. The back entry can be used to either go in the basement or up a few steps and into the kitchen area. Off the kitchen would be a small room in the northwest corner. Next to this small room would be a hallway which would lead to the upstairs in a second small room. On the south side of the home or the front of the house would be the living room and a bedroom. The upstairs would consist of the other bedroom area. There is an outbuilding to the north of the house with a large opening facing east. Inside the garage is a Dodge van. Outside of the home on the east side of the house is a four-wheel drive vehicle. In front of the home, parked on the lawn, would be a car, multiple colors. Multiple colors, okay. Suspect transported to Manitowoc County Jail in the back seat of Squad 62. At no time did the officer ask any questions of the suspect. So this guy has no freaking clue what is going on. You guys are accusing him of ending the life of someone, and he is totally blindsided by this, and so is his wife. He's a father of 5 kids at this point, and yeah. All right, so on the way to the county jail, suspect stated he had been helping his father pour concrete most of the day. When done pouring concrete, suspect stated he went to Green Bay and bought paint. Upon returning home from Green Bay with the paint, the suspect stated that he had been painting on his house. Suspect then asked the officer where the female lived. At no time did officer mention anything or refer to a female or a male. Upon arrival at the Manitowoc County Jail, officer did collect evidence from the suspect. The clothing was packaged and labeled and sealed and placed in evidence locker number 20, along with combings of pubic hair, hair follicles from the pubic area, and scrapings from under the fingernails. Ugh. Okay. I don't like reading that. Items of clothing that were packaged: 1 brown t-shirt, 1 pair of blue corduroy cutoff shorts, 1 pair of black socks, and 1 pair of black loafer shoes. Contact was made with district, so this is now 7/30, 1985. Contact was made with District Attorney Dennis Vogel. He's going to come into play in our story as well. So District Attorney Dennis Vogel, this date at approximately 7:30 a.m., and I advised the district attorney that I needed a search warrant for Steven Avery's residence in an attempt to locate the clothing he may have been wearing that he may have been wearing, or that the victim may have been wearing in the assault described in this complaint. The district attorney made arrangements to greet me at 8:30 a.m. with Deputy Dvorak at Judge Hazelwood's chambers. Testimony was given at that time by Sheriff Tom Kosarik and Deputy Judy Dvorak, and a search warrant was obtained for the Steven Avery residence. Located on CTHY in the town of Gibson in the county of Manitowoc, the search warrant was executed at approximately 11 a.m. on the 30th, and a number of articles were taken from the home as evidence. The list of the inventory taken in the search is attached to the complaint. I also questioned Lori A. Avery, wife of Steven Avery, as to Steven's activities on the previous day on January 29th, 1985. Lori stated that at approximately 6:30 a.m. on 7/29/85, she woke with the children and fed them. At approximately 8:45 a.m., she woke Steven, and at approximately 9 a.m., they left the house for the Fleet Farm store, Shopko store, Prangway Mall, the Two Rivers Wolf Snyder Drug, Red Owl store, and back to Wolf Snyder Drug to pick up a prescription. So they were running errands most of the morning and into the evening or afternoon there at their dad's. So she stated that they left Wolf Snyder Drug at approximately 11 a.m. and arrived at the Alan Avery residence, which is the father of Steven, at approximately 11:15. Lori stated that she and Steven then went back to their own home on County Truck Y to to pick up some diapers and supplies. So at this point, they might not have been living on the family property. They might have had a home somewhere else. I'm not sure what I don't really know that area. County Truck Y. I don't know. That's where their home is. To pick up some diapers and supplies for the children and return to the Allen Avery home at approximately 12:15, 12:25. So they left. They've been running around all morning since 9 a.m. They get to Steven's dad's house at 11:15. They go back home, pick up some things, and then they arrive back at the Allen residence, or the Avery residence, sorry, between 12:15 and 12:25. She stated that they poured concrete at the Allen Avery home and sat around watching a television show that lasted until approximately 3:30 p.m. on 7/29. Then they left the Allen Avery home and reportedly drove to Green Bay. Excuse me. Where they did some shopping at the Shopko store and purchased a can of paint, which is what he said he did. They then went to a Burger King restaurant where they ate and returned home sometime in the early evening hours. I asked Lori if she was able to produce a shopping slip from Green Bay that may have had a time and a date indicating that they were in fact there and purchased paint, and she stated that she was unable to do so. A check was made with Leo Pecor, the owner and operator of the Snyder drugstore at the Red Owl Mall, and he indicated that Lori had in fact been in the store between the hours of 10 a.m. and approximately 11:30 a.m. to pick up a prescription. He indicated that she was in the store alone at the time. Okay. They could have been separated and he was looking for other things, like he was looking at another part, or he was in the car with the kids. I don't know. All right, so Detective Alan Kalansik and Deputy Judy Dvorak were instructed to go to the crime lab in Madison and turn over various evidence in this particular case. The attached evidence transfer list will provide a detailed list of the items that were taken to the crime lab. The evidence was transferred to the crime lab on 7/30/85. Evidence was transferred on 7/30/85 at 3:55 p.m. A lineup was also put together on videotape at the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department during the afternoon of 7:30. The lineup consisted of the following individuals in order. Candidate 1 is Jeffrey L. Hansen. 2 is David Stevens. 3, candidate Fred Berry. 4, Christopher Parworth. 5, Steven Avery. 6, Daniel Tolfson. All videotape on 7:30. A 7th candidate will be coming in the 4:15 p.m. to be videotaped, and he is identified as Jim Norby, so a 7th candidate. Okay. 7:30, 14:45 hours. Officer Freundfeld returned to the scene and conducted a second area search using Baron, the dog again, and made a second attempt to locate the top half of the victim's swimming suit. This attempt was unsuccessful. However, a sheet of paper containing a copy of a ad for adult stuff was located approximately 30 feet to the northwest of the tree that the victim had described in her statement. So it's very possible that the individual, as we know with Gregory Allen now, that he was standing there, just in wait and getting himself all worked up for something violent to take place. So Barron indicated on this item approximately 15 to 20 feet away from it, indicating to the officer that the item still had human scent on it. When the officer checked the item, he found a small amount of sand, partially covering the bottom portion of the folded piece of paper, which indicates that the item would have to be left in the area long enough to have the sand accumulate, quite possibly a day's time. So the piece of paper is described as an 11 by 18 sheet of white paper with a photocopy of explicit, homosexual advertisements. On the bottom quarter of the page was a handwritten message indicating that the person who wrote the message on the bottom would be nearby. This item was turned over to the sheriff at the sheriff's department by Officer Freundfeld after the officer had left the scene at the beach. All right, so that was the official case file, the report of the incident. This, as you can see, this is the statement of Penny Beernsten, but it was written by Judy Dvorak, so she signed this. And I mean, it's not that long. I guess I could read it for you guys. I wasn't really planning on it, but I guess we could. Let's read it. And again, we have to believe that, keep in mind that there's no video, no audio of this interview, and this is all coming from Judy Dvorak's perspective because she's the one that's writing it. So it's not fully Penny. You always have to know that it's not fully that person's statement unless they write it and sign it themselves. And you have to make sure that they weren't coerced in some way. All right, so this is an interview of Penny A. Beernsten, 1900 hours at the emergency room of Memorial Hospital. Question: Penny, starting from the time of the assault, what happened? He passed me. He said, "A nice day for jogging." I said, "Yes, it is." We passed, and then he came back after me. A young couple came and wrapped me in a towel. I don't know who they were. Starting from the time you left home, how did this happen? I started jogging from Point Beach going north in a two-piece blue and white bikini. About 3 p.m., I crossed the second creek. There was a sailboat in the water and pup tents on the beach. I turned around at that point and went back south to Nashotah Park. I crossed the second creek. Sorry, this is handwriting. Handwriting is hard to read. That's why we should just get rid of it altogether. All right, I crossed the second creek again. I saw a poplar tree and someone in the shadow of the tree. I saw him put on the dark brown. So he put on a dark brown or black leather jacket. Then he started running after me. I started running into the water. He said, "It's a nice day for jogging." I said, "Yeah, it's a nice day for some exercise." I started running to the water and could see he was running after me, and I didn't go real deep. I feel I could run faster than swim. I went to the deeper water. He was catching up to me. I kept running. He grabbed me around the neck and shoulder and said, "Let's go up into the sand." He grabbed me around the chest. He said, "Take your bikini top off." We had gone over the bluff. It wasn't very visible to anyone. I struggled at that point, but he held on with a bear hug. "Did you assist him in any way?" She says, "No." He said, "Lie down in the sand." He pushed me down and was unbuckling his pants as he pushed me toward the sand dune. "Before this point, did he touch you in any place?" "Yes," and a bunch of redacted stuff. "Did he hurt you when he touched you?" "No, he wasn't particularly rough." He said something. I said my husband would be looking for me because I jogged more than an hour. He started choking me, put his hands around my neck, and said, "I'm going to kill you." "Did you notice anything peculiar about him?" A description. She says 5'6", 5'7", stocky, brown or black leather jacket, snaps, what does that say? Buttoned. Snaps or buttoned, not zipped. Long sandy hair, brown scraggly beard, no glasses, brown eyes, and shoes. But no description of the shoes, just shoes. He had a beard, so it was hard to see his complexion. Did you did you scratch or bite or leave any mark on him? No, I was kicking him. Where did you get the broken fingernail from going after him? After you kicked him, what happened? He said, you screwed everything up. You're going to die. I scrambled out from under him and ran. He ran off into the sand dunes. So that's even different there because he supposedly ran into the woods or the wooded area according to the statement that we just read, and now here's her statement saying he went into the sand dunes. So there's one inconsistency, even though it's a small thing, but there's bound to be more. All right, was he on top of you at this time? Yes, he was on the top of me. Did you have your bikini bottom down? Redacted. Did he make penetration? Okay. Redacted. When did he hit you in the face? After I kicked him in the groin and he had me pinned to the ground. How many times did he hit you? 5 or 6 times with his right hand. He grabbed my nose and pushed it to the side. Did he ask you to suck his penis or do any other sexual acts? Redacted. I said no. This was when we got to the sand dunes. He said something, then I kicked him and he started choking me and hitting me. Did you cry out for help? Yes, I did. When I got away, I ran from him toward the sailboat, but they in the boat could not hear me. When I got to the beach, I was crawling through the sand dunes and saw a couple on the beach. They heard and saw me and came over. They put a towel around me and called the officers. Did he have any weapons or say he had any? I think he said he had a knife. Is there anything else you can remember? No. Observations, both eyes bruised and red, laceration to her lower right eye, bruises to right side and front of neck, broken fingernails, bruises on forehead, scratches and bruised on back. Was the sand dry or wet enough to get footprints? It was very dry. So she went into more questioning here. Which way did he run? She says to the west. Oh, these were questions asked by the sheriff here. Did you notice what kind of shoes he was wearing? Hard shoes. Did he have any tattoos, scars, jewelry? No, a leather jacket with snaps straight down. Did it have a collar? I think it had a small collar. Did he have anything with him? No, he wasn't carrying anything with him. Did he have any rings or watches? No, I'm not sure. What was the approximate age? Couldn't tell because of his beard. Maybe around 35. 35. I want to remind you, not Richard Allen, wrong case, Steven Avery, but they have a lot of parallels to me, I kind of think. So I do kind of confuse Richard Allen and Steven Avery, but anyways. Stephen Avery is 19 years old at this time, and this woman saying that, or the victim is saying that he was potentially 35. So that's a big difference. That's a big difference. Was the sand loose or hard enough to get a footprint? She says loose. Which way did he run? To the west. Could you give a description for a drawing? She says yes. This information taken by Deputy Judy A. Dvorak. Were the hands greasy, dirty? They were broad, stubby, hairy, lighter. So, no. Not greasy and dirty, which is... She was trying to get it to Alan because... I keep saying Alan. To Stephen Avery because he worked at the auto salvage yard with his dad and he had greasy hands all the time from working there. So... This really quickly is going to kind of transition us into our next topics. We're going to talk, the next episode we're going to go into Stephen's, I'm wrapping up here, so we're almost done. on this episode for Steven's first wrongful conviction. He, we'll get to, I totally lost what I was going to say now. All right, so I was, this is the thing, I always have multiple thoughts going on in my head, and then one of them distracts me, and then I lose train of thought with the other. So, next episode, that's what I was going to say. Next episode, we're going to talk about Steven's alibi, and then we will get more into the investigation and how, what some of the mistakes might have been by law enforcement. We'll go into that. And then we're going to get into his exoneration. So this is going to lead the way into the next 2 episodes. I just wanted to read this out to you. So this is a report done September 22nd, 2003 by, I think, Deborah Strauss. I don't know who's writing this. All right, but this is a complaint, facts of complaint to, it's a municipality/county violation for Manitowoc. So this is going above the people who put him away because there was some mistakes here. So during July 1985, a woman was jogging on the beach just outside of Two Rivers, Manitowoc County, Wisconsin, when she was abducted, brutally beaten, and essayed. After the assault, the woman who was taken to hospital where Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department deputies interviewed her. The victim was able to provide a physical description of her assailant. She also assisted a composite sketch artist from the Sheriff's Department develop a hand-drawn picture of her assault. Again, we don't know why that particular person decided all of a sudden he was a sketch artist. Once the investigators were given a physical description, photo lineups were then created. The victim reviewed the composite picture, and then a short period of time later, the victim reviewed a photo lineup and identified Steven Avery as her assailant. So she saw the composite picture, and then shortly thereafter, she saw Steven Avery's photo in the lineup and identified him as the assailant. So at a subsequent date, the victim again identified Avery as her assailant. The second positive identification was made as part of the individual lineup. Based on the victim's initial positive identification of Avery as her assailant, Avery was arrested and charged with first-degree SA, attempted first-degree M, and false imprisonment. This arrest took place within 12 hours of the arrest. Like I said, usually when they are making speedy arrests like that, that is a huge red flag because it means that they did not investigate. And they, like, that's not even enough time for DNA tests to come back or anything, you know? I mean, there's no lab results that you can get back in that short amount of time. Anyways, so the arrest took place in 12 hours. The trial was held in December 1985. The prosecutor for this case was Manitowoc County District Attorney Dennis Vogel. There's his name again. Despite Avery having 16 alibi witnesses as to his whereabouts on the day of the assault, Avery was convicted of the crimes and sentenced to a total of 32 years in prison. Despite 16 alibi witnesses, he was still convicted. Make that make sense, guys. In September 2003, DNA tests were conducted on pubic hairs obtained after the assault. These tests concluded that Avery was not the perpetrator of these crimes. Gregory A. Allen was. He was the one who committed them. Soon after the mistake became public knowledge within the Manitowoc County Courthouse, the current district attorney, Mark Rohrer, started receiving information that people within the courthouse never believed the crimes were committed by Avery. These people all believed Allen committed the crime. Some of these individuals even stated to D.A. Rohrer that they made these concerns known to either the district attorney at the time, who was Dennis Vogel, or the Manitowoc County Sheriff Tom Koceric. So these individuals who were concerned that Gregory Allen may have been the perpetrator and not Steven Avery were what's the word I'm looking for? So these individuals stated to the new DA that they had concerns with the district attorney at the time. So and the sheriff. So they had major concerns and probably, afraid of the power that the district attorney and the sheriff bring with them. D.A. Rohrer expressed his concerns about these allegations to the Attorney General's office and requested an independent review. The focus of this review would be to determine if Allen was ever a suspect in this investigation, and if so, was this information turned over to the defense attorneys as part of the discovery procedure. It is recommended that this case be opened as a main case file. So reopen this case. This review will include an examination of the Manitowoc County District Attorney's case files, the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department's case files, along with the defense files. Interviews will also be conducted of the investigators involved in the investigation of the case and the interviews of anyone who may have indicated that they thought Gregory Allen had committed these crimes instead of Avery. So there you have it. Reporting officer was Deborah Strauss. Appleton Public Integrity, Wisconsin DOJ Division of Criminal Investigation. So that is who she is. And that is why she is saying to the new DA, you need to reopen this case. We're going to look at it again and find out what went wrong. Because a man went to prison for a crime he didn't commit, and somehow there were results, or a confession rather, that was sat on for multiple years, almost 8 years. So yeah, that has been the episode of Steven Avery's wrongful conviction. Now we're kind of at the point where he's in prison, but we're going to go back a step in the next one, like I said, and look at his alibi and look more into the investigation and where it went wrong. So I hope you join me in the next one. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button to make sure the bell's on so that you get all the notifications for when this series comes out, so you can get be one of the first to watch these videos. And also don't forget to like and comment. Let me know what you think about this case. You guys kind of voted for this one, and I'm excited to cover it because this case has so many angles and it's so crazy, and there's so many different points that need to be discussed. So I'm excited to cover this. You guys chose it. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do any of the other ones that I had put on my quiz or whatever. This was a poll a long time ago. You guys picked Steven Avery and Brendan Dassey. So we will continue on with their story until we are done. And I will do as many episodes as it takes. I don't care. I love doing these deep dives, so I hope you guys like it too. Going into all the court docs. I mean, there's so much in this case also that I want. There's so much that I could bring to you guys about this case, but I really don't want to make this a main focus. I'm actually going to cut it down to like only those 3 episodes, that this one and 2 more, and then we'll get into the Teresa Hallback stuff. But I definitely wanted a good concrete foundation of what happened in this case before we move on to Teresa Hallback, because I think it's very necessary in order to go through the civil suit and all that. So we're going to get there. We'll get there, but we need the background first, and this is the background. This is Steven Avery's his early years, and now we can look more into this case and Teresa's in future episodes. So I thank you so much for watching, and take care. Bye now. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.